guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, then welcome. Today is continuing the red flag saga series. I don't know. So on Tuesday, I posted a video that was just talking about the red flags that men can look for in women. Today is a continuation of that, where we are talking about red flags that women can look for in men. So if you're new to this channel, then welcome. This is a place where healthy relationships can flourish and grow, okay? A big part of having a healthy relationship is picking a good partner, picking a person that is a good fit for you. So that is why we are focused on red flags today. If you missed Tuesday's video, make sure that you go back, watch that video. If you missed last week's video, make sure that you watch that video and then stay tuned for Sunday's live stream. We do live streams every single Sunday, so make sure that you join us for that. So without further ado, I'm not gonna do a whole bunch of talking in the intro of this. We're just gonna go ahead and get into the video. All right, so the first red flag that I wanna talk about that women should look for in a man is that he lacks direction or clarity in his life. So there is a scripture in the Bible, it talks about a double-minded man being unstable and being unstable in all of his ways. So when we talk about a man that is lacking direction, that is not a man that is capable of leading you. So that's something that you really need to focus on. And I think the best way, there are two ways to look at that and to decipher that, okay? One of them is to look at what his plan has been up until this point in his life. So where is he at currently in his life? What kind of decisions has he made within the past year, within the past 6 months? And then how does that correlate to where he's trying to go, to where you're trying to go? And then figure out if those things are a good match. Do those things correlate to each other? Are they aligned? So you also need to see, okay, what are his plans for the future? And then what is he doing right now to contribute to that? Because if he's saying that his plans for the next year, the next 5 years, first of all, if he does not have a plan for the next year, for the next 5 years, that in itself is a red flag, because that is a clear lack of clarity on what's going on. Similarly, if the things that he's doing right now don't make sense in order for him to get to whatever his plan is for the next year or the next 5 years, that is also a red flag. There needs to be some correlation between what he's saying he wants and what he's doing in the present to get what he wants. There's a book called Personality Isn't Permanent. In that book, he talks about the fact that we as people, we have to start embodying the version of us that would be able to create the outcomes that we want in our future. So what does that mean? If I say that in the next year, I intend to be a millionaire, then I need to right now embody the type of woman that I would need to become in order to become a millionaire in the future. So that woman is probably very disciplined. She probably has a very clear schedule. She probably gets up at a certain time every day. She probably works a certain amount of hours on whatever that thing is that's going to get her that $1 million. She has a certain set of habits and behaviors that contributes to helping her become a millionaire. And so I would need to take that on now in order to see the fruits of that labor in the future. Similarly, if you are dating a man that is saying he has all of these big audacious goals, but he's not putting in any effort, he's not even resembling the type of man that would have those outcomes, that is a red flag. He's just talking. There's no follow through with what he's saying. That is not a man that you want to get behind and that is even capable of leading you, because in order for me to lead other people, I have to first be able to lead myself. Okay, so if you see those things in a man and you decide that you still want to follow behind him, that's on you, whatever happens after that. Because what's going to happen is you're probably going to end up on some sort of roller coaster as he's trying to navigate where he's going and where he wants to be and who he wants to be and all of those different things. It is much better to go after the type of man that already has direction. He already knows where he's going. That man may be a little older than you if you're somebody that's in your 20s. I'm in my 20s, I'm 28. So that man may be a little bit older, and he's already had time to kind of figure out what he wants and where he's going. So lack of direction, that's number one. Number two is sort of similar. Not at first, it's not going to seem similar, but number two is that he doesn't take accountability. So there are a lot of different ways that you can think about somebody taking accountability, and specifically with this one, I want you to look at how he takes accountability for the circumstances that have brought him to where he is right now. So this is not just, you know, an argument, you figuring out, does he take accountability? Can he admit that he's wrong? I think that that is important as well. However, I want you to pay attention to and be intentional about asking, how have the situations from his past affected him, and what part or role did he play in those situations? Now, accountability, I think, is important for men and for women. I think both men and women should be they should be accountable for themselves, for their actions, for their behaviors, for the circumstances that got them here. And you can learn a lot by how people talk about their past. So if everything is a victim mentality and these things just happen to him, he just was always overlooked, he was just always betrayed by people, he just, like, if it's just constantly, they did this to me, that is a man that can't take accountability for the circumstances in his life, and that's not a good sign. At the very least, I had a video, it's still up, it talks about if you're in a toxic relationship, something about you is toxic too, and that toxicity may be at the very least that you ignored the red flags, which is why we're talking about red flags, but it could be that you don't do a good job picking good people, or you don't speak up for yourself, or people are overlooking you because you don't put yourself in environments where you can be appreciated. Those things, you have to take accountability for those things. Or it could be, okay, I knew that this woman was toxic and I decided to stay in this situation. I didn't get a promotion, not just because they overlooked me, but maybe I didn't speak up in rooms. Maybe I stayed in that situation at work in a space where I wasn't appreciated, and I didn't go apply for other jobs. I didn't even try to find another job. You know, you have to take accountability for where you're at. And I think that's a very important trait in a man, especially a man that you expect or desire to lead you anywhere. Because if he has no acknowledgement or knowledge of his flaws, so that's definitely number two. All right, number three. The third red flag to observe in men is that he lacks boundaries. He does not have boundaries for the people in his life, and that is going to be a problem. And it's not just with friends. He needs to also have boundaries with his parents, with his siblings, with his cousins. Like, everybody needs boundaries. And that's not to say, like, he can't talk to nobody, he can't ever go out, he can't spend time with friends, but you can tell when somebody has no control over the extent to which people have access to them. And that's not a good sign. Because if you find a man that lacks boundaries with his mom or with his sister or brother or something like that, that's going to cause issues in the future. If he has a lack of boundaries with friends, that's going to cause issues in the future. So if you notice that other people are able to run his life, or that he's easily influenced by other people, you got to get out of that situation. You have to go. It's going to be very difficult to convince him, and it's just going to take too much time. And time is precious. It's going to take too much time to have to show him and convince him that boundaries are important and that he can't just let everybody have access to him. You're going to be fighting a losing battle. So retreat, let that go, move on. I don't really have much to say about that one. If there are no boundaries, let that man go. Okay? All right, number 4, the fourth red flag that women need to pay attention to and run away from if they see it in a man is that he's impulsive. He needs to have a system for making decisions. It can't just be that every time he thinks about something, he just goes off and does that. That's not a good sign for a multitude of reasons. One of them is that may indicate that he lacks self-control. And that's never a good thing. The other is, typically how people do one thing is how they tend to do everything or other things. And so a man that is impulsive, he's not going to be a good leader, potentially, because he's going to be operating off of temporary emotions or temporary thoughts. He may not have even thought everything out completely. He's just making decisions based on what he feels like doing at that time. When we think about some of the most effective leaders throughout history, even if they weren't necessarily great people, they had a plan though. They thought through, they had a decision-making process. Alongside that, you need to really take a look into who his counsel is. And I think that having an effective counsel, but still having boundaries, again, around those people helps with some of that impulsive nature that some men tend to have. So if he does not have anybody that he can go to kind of get advice or to get feedback from, if he is just on his own, he's a lone ranger and he's just doing whatever he wants to do, that is a red flag. Impulsive behavior, it's a no-go. All right, number 5. So here is the 5th red flag that women should avoid if they see this in a man. Avoid him at all costs, is that he is non-confrontational. And I know what you're probably thinking is that there's this whole like toxic masculinity, and I'm advocating for that. I'm not saying that he needs to buck up and want to fight everybody that is acting crazy. What I'm saying is not all confrontation and conflict is bad. There is a such thing as healthy conflict. With a man that knows what he wants, he has boundaries, expectations, he's able to communicate, he's able to bring down. I always say that men are supposed to control the temperature in the room. And so a man that can control the temperature, that can de-escalate situations, that man is an asset. That is a whole green flag waving all through the air. But a man that is afraid to advocate for himself, that is incapable of regulating the temperature in the room, and he just lets people run all over him, going back to the boundaries. He lets people do whatever he wants, whatever they want to him. That's not a good fit for a woman that wants, again, to be led, to be protected, that wants to be under the provision of a man that has foresight and a direction for his life. We need him to be comfortable and confident in making sure that things go as they're supposed to go, and sometimes that involves conflict. All right, so I hope that this conversation was fruitful. I hope that it sparked some things. Fellas, if you're listening to this video, I hope that maybe you were able to kind of check some boxes and say, you know what? Yep, I'm good at that. I'm good at that. This is not an issue for me. A woman that is dealing with me would not have to deal with these red flags. Women, if you're listening to this, I hope that you're able to kind of take some of these things. Maybe you took some notes. You're able to say, okay, in the future, I can look for some of these things in a man, or avoid some of these things if I see those things in a man. And yeah, so again, I hope that y'all tune in on Sunday for my live stream, and then next week there will be more videos on more of these topics. And so I'm super excited. Make sure that y'all go and watch the different videos as a part of the Dating Academy. And make sure that you follow me on Instagram. Make sure that you like this video. Make sure that you share it. And that you subscribe if you haven't already. So I will see you guys next time, and happy dating!